Peter, you ever feel like things are always rigged, but in a way that's hard to point to?
Yes, power works best when it's hidden. There's this quote by Michel Rolf Trilliat that nails it. History is the fruit of power, but power itself is never so transparent that its analysis becomes superfluous. The ultimate mark of power may be its invisibility. Basically, he says that power doesn't just shape events. It shapes how we understand those events. The harder it is to see, the harder it is to question.
That sounds kind of like a conspiracy theory. Everything feels normal, like natural. But I also understand something feels off.
Exactly. That's the trick. Control isn't just enforced through laws or police. It's embedded in everyday life. School, religion, media, work, and even families. These institutions shape our sense of what's normal, but they're actually structured to reproduce the conditions needed for an exploitative economic system, where most people do the work and a small group reaps most of the rewards. Things like obedience, rigid gender roles, nationalism, and narrow definitions of success and morality are repeated and ritualized so often that we internalize them. Eventually, they feel like common sense rather than what they really are, tools for maintaining the status quo of the ruling class.
So the whole thing is rigged to seem fair while it quietly takes advantage of people.
Systems of oppression don't just disappear, they evolve. From chattel slavery to feudalism to wage slavery. The ideas of the ruling class are in every epoch the ruling ideas. That is, the class which is the ruling material force in society is at the same time the ruling intellectual force. Today, wealth and work are organized in a way where some labor is highly valued, while other labor, especially unpaid or informal labor, is ignored. But it is a basic fact. All labor is important for a functioning society. The rewards of all value created funnels upward by design. We're taught to believe this is the only way things can work and have alienated any sense of solidarity through manipulating identity politics.
But aren't we technically free to do what we want?
That's the illusion. If you dig deeper into this idea of voluntary choice, with a materialist class analysis, you'll see most people don't own anything that lets them survive on their own. No land, no tools, no capital. So the only real option is to sell your labor. That's not freedom, it's coercion. The fact that you can choose which boss to work for or negotiate salaries doesn't make it voluntary in any meaningful sense. Wage relation itself is exploitative by design.
What about scarcity, though? Isn't that just a basic fact of life?
Yes and no. Scarcity exists, but it isn't always real. It's often manufactured or exaggerated. There are enough resources for everyone to live with dignity, and the planet can sustain life if managed responsibly. But under this system, resources are enclosed under private property, overexploited, and used to maximize profits, regardless of ecological limits. The people in power are aware of this, and they develop a false sense of paranoia about scarcity, and this idea is trickled down into every individual in society. They deny climate change or downplay its impact because solving it would mean giving up their control. They're willing to let millions suffer and die just to preserve their own position. This idea is not just unsustainable, but a threat to humanity itself.
So what's the alternative? How do we start changing any of this?
First, by recognizing it. Understanding how much of our lives are shaped by structures we didn't choose. Exposing the myth of meritocracy. The idea that individual effort is what brings success, when the whole system is tilted from the start. When you start connecting your personal struggles to broader economic and social systems, that's the beginning of class consciousness. It's not about blaming individuals. It's about seeing the structure and deciding you're not okay with it. And from there, you organize, build movements, communities, and institutions that shift control over resources and production away from private hands and toward public, democratic use, meeting people's needs, not maximizing profits.
So, vote harder in the next election?
No, Stewie. If you stay within the boundaries of a system built to protect capital, you'll keep ending up in the same place. Any reforms won under that framework are temporary, like hanging off a cliff by your fingertips. You might hold on a little longer, but gravity always wins. And in this case, gravity is capital. But the thing is, this gravity isn't natural. It's a social construct. and it can be dismantled. The way forward is through a system where the people who actually do the work make the decisions. That means building new forms of power, not just changing faces at the top.